And here we have Dominic, who actually did, and we actually we weren't going to open any more lines because we were close to the end of the show. We opened a line specifically so this person could call in and talk to us. We have Dominic here. There we go. We have Dominic here who is calling in from Melodic Snakes. Just beautiful serpents singing songs, who is a theist who was asking, does an atheist have faith that the universe was created by chance? Great question. Let's see if it's a serious call. Dominic, you're on the line with Forrest and Eve. How are you doing?
Hey, Forrest. Hey.
Hello. I'm really glad you actually called. Thank you for doing that. Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Well, I appreciate you taking the call.
Yeah. So what I've got here on the call screen is exactly what I said. Do you have anything you want to expound upon? Any other way you want to frame this? Any context you want to give before we answer your question?
Well, I'm a believer, so I'm coming at it from that perspective. I believe in God.
What do you
I believe in Christ.
Okay, so the God of the Bible, specifically Jesus.
Yes.
Okay. So the question that I have here is, do we have faith that the universe was created by chance? I'm happy to answer that question, but it's not going to be super productive. So don't be surprised if we have to go a little bit past that and talk a little bit about what you believe as well. So first of all, no, we don't. I don't think the universe was created at all. I don't, because created implies a creator. I also don't think that it was chance or random or anything like that. I believe the laws of physics, it may have been different at that time because the physics that we have now break down at the point of the Big Bang. But at the end of the day, I don't know what was before the Big Bang or what caused the Big Bang or anything like that, because those questions don't actually make any scientific sense. And so I have this point where I'm like, I know what the Big Bang is and I know what happened after that. But there's a point where I don't know something. And I'm willing to just say I don't know. I'm not happy about not knowing, but I want to know really bad, but I don't. And so I just say, I don't know where this universe came from. It is possible this universe was always here, that it's eternal. It's possible that it has a starting point. It's possible that it's cyclical. I don't know. And someday, hopefully, a really cool cosmologist will figure it out and tell me. But that's not my area. I'm a biologist, not a physicist.
I hear you. I guess. Go ahead.
I was just asking if that answers your question sufficiently, or if you have any follow-ups or anything that I didn't explain clearly that you want to ask about.
Yeah. So you know that everything was created, or it wasn't created by chance, but you can't prove that it wasn't created by chance according to what you believe.
That's not what I said.
No, not even close.
No. So
that's part of what you said, right?
No, I know. I actually specifically, I went out of my way to say that I didn't think that everything was just by chance.
I can make this really simple. I don't think that there's a creator because I don't see.
You can't prove it.
Can I just, hey Dominic, can I say my whole sentence? Yeah. So I don't believe that there's a creator because I don't think we have good reason to think that there's a creator. I have no idea how the universe came to be, if it even did come to be, anything. That's my position. No idea. I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of it. When you boil it down, like, I know the Big Bang happened and I understand like a little bit of the physics there. However, to ask what caused it or what came before it doesn't actually, like, the question literally doesn't make any sense. It's like asking what's north of the North Pole. It's just, what does that mean? And so I don't have an answer for it. None of it is chance. None of it is random. None of it is any of that. It's all very clearly following physical laws.
You just believe in the Big Bang, but you don't understand everything. That's fair. I have another question.
Again, I want to be clear. I don't believe in the Big Bang. I understand it. So there's a difference between, it's not like it's a faith system. It's something that we actually have evidence for, and I can rely on that evidence to be truthful because it works all the time forever. And I don't have to understand everything about something to understand, to know that it happened or know that it's going on. I just have to use the evidence that I have that points me in that direction. I'm also, again, not a physicist. I'm a biologist. So like I could expound way more on the evidence for something like evolution than I could about the evidence for the Big Bang, because that's actually an area that I've studied. And so like, I don't have faith in evolution. I have a tremendous amount of evidence for it, and I can show how it works. I can explain how it works. I can break it down. I can see it working. Same thing with the Big Bang. I don't have faith in it. I don't have a belief system. It's just something that we have evidence for that we know happened.
Okay. So according to your perspective, how did the beginning of humanity start? Like from like the first beginning, and how did that happen according to the evolutionary perspective?
Of humanity specifically?
Yes.
Humans evolved 200,000 years ago in Africa. So our species is about 200,000 years old. And you ask, where did we come from, or where are you going with it?
Yeah, like what were the first humans what was the very first human? What did the first human that was ever created look like? Or according to the evolutionary perspective?
Again, pushing back on the word created. Also, that's a misunderstanding of how evolution works. Okay. So the thing about evolution is that you don't have one species that just gives birth to another species. A species isn't like a solid set thing that just pops into existence. It's a gradient, and we only draw boxes whenever we find significant like differences in the body and the genome and whatever that can just say this is now a different group of things. There's actually lots of different concepts of what a species is, because there is no one way just all the time to say this is what a species is. So as far as the first humans, what you have to know is that if you had my skeleton and my parents' skeletons and their parents' skeletons and their parents' skeletons going all the way back, not even 200,000 years, millions of years, as far back as you want, there is not a single point where you could say, okay, this is now where humans start. This is the first human. Everything before it isn't a human. Everything after it is a human. That's just not how that works. There is no clear set boundary. We just know that at the 200,000 year mark, around in that area, we are now, our bodies are so different. I was going to use some jargon, but it's not necessary. We are now so different that we can no longer call ourselves any of the other species that were around at that time. This is now what we're going to call Homo sapiens, and this is where that begins. Okay,
I got you. So before, I'm trying to look at it from an evolutionary perspective, although you do know my bias, but what I'm trying to say is, like, even from an evolutionary perspective, somebody would have to explain to me, how did the first of whatever you said evolved, how did that first thing happen, like that first cell? Like the Big Bang, did it just Big Bang into a person?
So it sounds like you're getting at what's called abiogenesis, which is the beginning of life itself. So you're asking, well, what did humans come from? And then what did that come from? And what did that come from? All the way back to the beginning of life. Is that what you're asking me?
Exactly. The Big Bang, according to evolutionary perspective, how did the Big Bang into life? How did the Big Bang create a cell that became another cell?
That's a great question. And so there's a couple of things here that you need to understand. Number one is that the Big Bang and evolution are different. The Big Bang is the beginning of the universe. Evolution is how life changes over subsequent generations. And none of that is anything close. It is the same thing as the beginning of life, which is a totally different question. So the Big Bang is the beginning of the universe. We then get from the beginning of the universe, we get stars coming into existence and exploding. We get galaxies coming into and out of existence. We get planets coming into and out of existence. All sorts of stuff are happening there. About 4 billion. This is about 13.8 billion years ago. About 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth forms, and we can see planets forming and see how that happens. We can use really cool physical models to show how that works as well. I can explain it if you'd like, but I don't think it's of interest to you. But like, we can get into it. The Earth forms 4.5 billion years ago, and we are in this period of bombardment. The Earth is very hot; it's molten lava, As soon as that stops, takes about 1 billion years for that to stop, about 3.8 billion years ago, almost immediately after the Earth cools, we immediately see life popping up. So almost as quickly as it was possible for life to start, life started. Now, as far as how that happened, that's called abiogenesis. This is the beginning of life. And we don't know everything about it yet. It's just like with the Big Bang. We know that it happened. We have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle, but we don't have the whole puzzle. What we do know, well, let me ask you, Dominic. I can explain this in a little bit complicated.
Could I ask a real quick question?
Sure.
Dominic, can I ask you a question? Do you believe what you believe because you think it's true, or because you don't understand evolution?
Well, you don't have to understand everything. You can't overturn it. You can't turn over every stone. You know?
Sure.
But that doesn't answer my question. So do you believe what you believe because you think it's true, or because you don't understand evolution and therefore you need better answers, so you're just filling in the blank with this religion because that's what you've been taught?
I believe what I believe because I've felt the evidence, not felt, but I've come to the knowledge of the truth. I have searched the scriptures. It not only like provides.
Have you searched outside of scripture to determine if Christianity is true?
Yeah, like science. You're talking about science, like just any other argument,
or even learning how the Bible came to be. Anything like, have you learned about other religions?
Yeah, sure. I took religion classes. I know about Hinduism. I know about Buddhism.
What would you say? What would you say is what's the number one reason you believe that Christianity is true? That the Christian God is real? What is your best evidence, or what has compelled you to believe that God exists?
Well, you can't go off a feeling. I would say out of the two monotheistic religions, if you want to look at it from an objective perspective or objective point of view, you'd have to say that both of them have Jesus in it, but they're both they're both monotheistic. So which one is more reliable? And so that's what I go to. If you read the Bible's a whole lot more reliable.
But wait, hold on. So Dominic, before we get into all of that, why do you believe that a God exists and that it's one God?
Why do I believe? Because creation.
Why aren't there like 5 gods that created everything? Yeah, but then why? If you're really stuck on this creator thing, then why do you not think there's like 10 gods that work together to create everything? Why is there one specific God? Because that one God created all humanity. It's not. There isn't just one God per country, and each country had its own God, and it just looked like humans. And how do you know that?
Had different humans that look different.
So how
do I know?
How do you know? Yep. How do you know that there's a creator God?
Okay. You and Forrest. Well, before Forrest, there was another guy. I listened to the other. I think it was his mentor. Well, I kind of popped into some of these podcasts, but
Dominic, this is a question about you. This shouldn't bring up anybody else's name. So how do you know that this God exists?
Okay.
I don't need an argument. I just want the truth. I just want an answer. I want a real, honest answer from you about why you believe this God exists. This is not a gotcha question. I'm just trying to get the conversation going somewhere. So I want to know why you believe this God exists. How do you know, as you just said, that this God exists?
How do I know that this God exists? Like, how do I know that I can't see him physically, but I believe in him that he's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end.
Why? So
I walk by.
I
walk by faith, not by sight. So
okay, but that's
why have faith in that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dominic. I just want to point out, like, a minute ago, you were asking me about where life came from. You asked me where life came from.
No,
and I was prepared to give you detailed explanations of like the different pieces of life. What I was going to ask you before Eve rudely interrupted me was that, no, I'm teasing you. So it's like, but no, like what, like, if you ask me where life comes from and why I believe life was not created by a God, but in fact occurred naturally, I would explain to you the different experiments that we have, like the evidence that we have on the ground, like actually ways that we can observe the different pieces of life coming together by natural processes. If you ask me why I understand, like why I think that evolution is real, I would explain to you evidence for evolution, experiments that we have showing evolution. I would show all the different pieces of the natural world that all point towards evolution. At no point would I just say, same thing with the Big Bang. I can tell you evidence that we have for the Big Bang. At no point am I just going to say, I don't know, I just believe it because I do. Like, that would be a silly thing to say. And yet here you are saying that you just believe this because of faith. And I don't understand why that's okay for you.
Well, it's not blind faith. It's not like I believe in something that I haven't tried to test. But I will say that, like, the scientific method is important to you, right?
Extremely. It is the best way to understand what is true.
Okay. So do you believe in Darwin's evolutionary theory?
So Darwin is just the first person to write down like his ideas about how evolution worked. There actually are a lot of other people before Darwin that talked about evolution. He just was the best and the most comprehensive at it. Darwin got some stuff right. Darwin got some stuff wrong. Now we have what's called neo-Darwinism, which is just one of the models for evolution. But overall, yes, evolution is real. Biological evolution is a thing. The ways that Darwin described it, most of which are true, and Darwinian theory today is just built upon his original work and like understanding it better. I say all that not to be pedantic, Dominic. I'm saying that so that you don't fall into the trap of saying, okay, well then you worship Darwin. No,
I'm not. I wouldn't say that. I'm just, but I want to kind of circle back. I know that we're kind of jumping around. But like you said, how do I know? Eve said, how do I know that God exists? I believe God answers prayer. I believe in the inerrancy of the Bible. And so I think there's historical evidence that it's true. I think there's eyewitness testimony that it's true. I think there's literary style that you can actually examine in the Bible and there's too much. But just all that aside, even if you can just like logically, I can't just say like to you and just try to logically. I can try to make simple logic, like a building didn't create itself. There were people that built that building, and so this world didn't create itself.
It's the second time you said that. What does that have to do with it?
Yeah, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. It sounds to me like you grew up in this faith and like you don't have proper education when it comes to evolution, which I didn't. I was homeschooled. Right. I had to learn that later in life. And it sounds like you're sticking with something that you've been taught. And I'm going to be going just for a little bit longer. So it sounds like you're going with these arguments that you've been taught, like the building one. Forrest and I have heard this a lot of times. There's a fallacy name for it. And it sounds like you're going down a list. And that's why I wanted to have an honest conversation with you where I ask you what you actually believe and why you believe it, not what other people have told you to say back or what arguments people have told you. I'm trying to help you really think this through and figure out what you believe and why, because what's happening is you're questioning Forrest and I about stuff, and that's irrelevant to what's true or not. I'm trying to gauge how you figured out what is true and if you even care about something being true or not.
Okay, I hear you. Eve. So this is actually my first time really calling into a call line like this, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling in.
Your point, Eve. You said that I grew up. I actually didn't grow up in a Christian house, so I didn't grow up homeschooled or isolated at all. I actually came to faith, despite I wasn't raised to be an atheist. but I wasn't raised to be a Christian or to actually read the Bible either. I was born in Montana, and I've spent some time in Germany. I've been to South America, and I've kind of traveled a little bit. So I haven't just been in Mississippi, because there is a stereotype that comes with people from the South. But I will say I have lived in Mississippi for a while.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know, I have no idea how you grew up. I'm just letting you know how it's coming off. It's coming off as you don't understand evolution and that you are just following a script, because I recognize this script.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I kind of know like how y'all argue some of these things. And I think, and I'm not trying to be contentious really. I think that's a good point.
I'm sorry. I think what Eve is getting at is that this sounds a lot like the arguments that we get all the time from people who have literally just never been outside of their bubble or had a conversation with people they disagree with. So I understand you say you've traveled. That's awesome. Right. But like I took some notes here. Like the last thing you were talking about, you said that God answers prayer. You said the Bible is inerrant. You said that eyewitness testimony of the Bible is evidence for it being true. Those are three things that immediately are major problems with your belief system. Like each of those things is something that we could sit here and argue for a long time and demonstrate why it's a terrible reason to believe in a God. And so like for me, I'm curious to know like why, like if you could give me the best reason for what you believe, I would be willing to talk about that. If you want to talk about why like evolution is true, I'm happy to do that. But I don't think that's why you're calling in. It just sounds like something that you're throwing up. Like, I don't know why, either to establish a baseline or to say like that we believe in something that's faithful or unguided randomness or something. I don't understand what's the point of the call.
I think it takes a lot of faith to be an atheist.
Why?
So, but because Dominic, did you call?
You have to believe. Go ahead.
But here's a couple of things. Like just already saying that's a really common thing that we hear from Christians who have not had these conversations before. And so, number one, I'm just going to already go with, okay, is faith bad? If you can have faith in, let's call it faith. Let's say that Forrest and I have faith in evolution. We can give you reasons why. And are you calling faith bad? Because now it's just a wash. If we both have faith, cool. Forrest and I will give you reasons, and they're really good reasons for why we follow science. And then meanwhile, you're over here just saying, well, I think this, and this. And Forrest just pointed out, we can tell you why those are terrible reasons. You can't tell us why it's a terrible reason to, quote, believe, which again, that's not great terminology, believe in science.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll admit, I don't know the evolutionary theory as much as Forrest or you probably do. I can't tell you. I'm not a biologist, so I can't go into detail about everything. But
I don't know shit. I was homeschooled.
Well, some people in homeschool, they thrive.
Not when you're a Christian and you're taught that dinosaurs don't exist and that the earth is only 6,000 years old. So I can read and write really well, but I was taught all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm not saying that you are in that field. What I'm getting at, Dominic, is that I don't know that you're very secure in what you believe, because if you were, you would be able to present to us why you're believing that instead of trying to poke holes in what Forrest and I believe. Just present us with the truth. You could dismantle every single thing if you have compelling reason to believe in your God. But you're you're trying to go through the script of, okay, well, you have faith. Okay, well, building can't build itself. Okay, and you're going through these talking points, these Christian apologist talking points that we can just easily swat down instead of just, do you really believe this? And is it really, but the Bible doesn't mean shit to me if you can't prove that there's a God. Because otherwise, why are we not going to sit here and look at the Quran or any other religious text, or somebody that just wrote a book and walks up off the street and said, God told me to write this and here you have to believe it?
Well, there you go. You can't turn it. I mean, if everybody had their own religion, then there's no way anybody would. You can't meet everybody. So if everybody had their own religion and everybody, I mean, I'm not a pluralist, but.
You're getting real close to getting my point.
Yeah, that's everybody does have their own
You're
religion,
dangerously close. You're dangerously close to the point. Yeah. Like, why should I believe your Bible versus some guy walking off the street saying, God actually just told me that the Bible is old news. He has new news, and this is what it is. And here, follow what this says.
Well, can you repeat that real quick?
Why should I believe you coming to me with the Bible versus some guy coming off the street saying, no. God just told me that the Bible is old news. He told me to write a new book. Okay. Here's the new rules. Okay. Here you go. Follow this. And this is brand new revelation from God.
And you know what? This literally did happen. Joseph Smith actually did that.
This happens all the time. Yes.
Yeah, I had a guy come up and corner me at a conference with a book full of Jared Leto pictures and say God told him to write that for me. So yes, this does happen. So my question remains. So how do we determine what's actually true? It's not cool. He made an hour and a half video about it.
And I'm not trying to waste your time. You'd have to examine it. You'd have to examine both of them. I've examined.
Sure.
Cool. So I've examined both. And to me, I don't see, so I examined the Bible. I went to school to study the Bible. And I also read the Quran. And as an atheist, went back and read the Bible, didn't find any of it convincing at all. I found them equally unconvincing, in fact.
You found them unconvincing?
Correct.
Well, I have also,
because neither of them offered, they offered zero evidence of the existence of a God.
So I think well, I mean, I'm not going to change your minds. I do know that this is a,
if you present good evidence.
Well, see, no, I don't believe you're being honest about that, though. I think that's the line.
So Dominic, I believed something for my entire life. And then when presented with reasons not to believe that, I drastically changed my life and my mind because I wanted to live in accordance with reality. That's a value to me. So when I'm given new information that's compelling, that aligns with reality, then I change my mind. I have already demonstrated that I'm very capable and willing and want to do that, even if it costs me everything. I have already done that. I lost everything when I lost my belief. I started over again. I love my life now. I can do it again. If something else is true other than what I believe, I want to believe the true thing.
So you were raised in the church or something? You were raised as a Christian?
Yep.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's a lot wrong with that.
I mean, I think any person that raises a family is going to teach their kids whatever they want them to believe. They're going to
Dominic, why are we talking about other people? Why do you believe what you believe? And why do you have a good reason to believe it? I don't know that you're even convinced that you do, or else you would be readily offering that information for us. And don't get me wrong, I love this conversation. I love that you called. I think that you are onto something. I just hope that you continue the questions with yourself off of this phone call.
Well, I mean, I kind of jump into I'd like to debate, and there are some things that I have kind of learned through like different people that I've listened to, but I have examined the scriptures for myself too. And there is danger in an echo chamber or whatever, but I don't think I'll ever change what I believe as far as the Bible, but
would you be willing to change your mind if you were given evidence that the Bible is completely untrue and it's a lie? Would you stop believing in God?
But she can't.
That's not what she asked you. She asked you a yes or no question. If you could prove that Jesus didn't die and that he didn't rise from the dead and that he doesn't love you, if you could prove that to me, or if you could prove,
see, Christianity has never died. The true Christianity has never died.
Do you not understand? Like, please listen to my question. If someone was able to prove that none of that ever happened, it's a complete lie, would you stop believing in God?
Are you saying that you can prove that? Because I don't think you can prove that.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, but see, I hear you. And
Dominic, so Dominic, we've been nice in answering your questions. And I answered your question when you said you don't even think I want to change my mind, even if you were able to provide convincing evidence.
Right,
I gave you my reasons why I don't think that's true. So Dominic, my question for you is, do you care what is true or not? If the Bible and everything in it were proven to be lies, would you continue to believe in God?
If you can prove that the Bible was completely false, sure, I'll rock with you. I'll say that, yeah, like, I guess, but you can't, I don't think you can, though. Like, I don't think somebody could.
But Dominic,
that God
do you care if something is true or not?
Sure.
So if the Bible were, let's say in some pretend world, somebody walks up to you and they prove to you that there is no God, would you say, all right, I don't believe anymore? Or would you continue believing despite the evidence to the contrary? No, I asked you a question. I've given you multiple opportunities and I've answered all of your questions, Dominic.
Yeah, I know I know, but all right. Can I answer it with an example?
No, I just want a yes or no.
Can I try something just really quickly, just for funsies? Just
please.
Dominic, what was the last thing that you had to eat? Dominic, what was the last thing you had to eat?
I cooked the hot dog in the air fryer.
Okay. How would you feel right now if you hadn't eaten that hot dog?
I would probably feel a little bit hungry.
Right. So that's how a hypothetical works, right? Is I'm not saying you didn't eat the hot dog. I'm not saying that the hot dog doesn't exist. I'm not saying that the hot dog, I'm not saying any of that. I'm asking you, if this is true, then what would that mean? And you're able to entertain that, right? So when Eve asks you repeatedly, if someone disproved the Bible, then would you stop believing in it? And you have to keep deflecting over and over and over and saying, well, you can't do that. Well, can I ask you a question? Can I do it? It shows that you're not secure in your own beliefs. And especially considering the fact that you said a minute ago that it takes faith to not believe in a God. It shows me that you don't actually have a good grounding in what faith is, what your beliefs are, whether or not this God is worth believing in.
I don't care if I look stupid to anybody on here.
Dominic, you don't look stupid. No, I'm glad you called in. Here's my official assessment. I think you truly believe. I think you believe this very much. I think that you're being extremely honest when you say that you believe this. I don't think you have good reasons, and I don't know that you've been confronted with good questions about the things that you believe before. And I think it would benefit you a lot to ask those questions. If you care about what is true or not. That's why I was asking that hypothetical. Because if you don't care if something is true or not, then okay, go believe whatever you want and see how that works for your life. I don't think it'll go very well. But if you care what's true or not, if you only want to believe something if it's true, then I think there's a lot of questions you have not asked yourself about your faith.
I mean, I went through a period where I looked at a lot of different things, but there comes a point when a person has to, like, obviously everybody has to be open-minded. You have to be willing to, like, look at something from somebody else's point of view, but that doesn't mean you have to change what you believe or agree that somebody could. Like, I don't think that the Bible is disprovable. So you're asking me something that I don't think can happen.
Dominic, I was just trying to gauge, but Dominic, I was trying to gauge your willingness or your value of truth. Is the value here truth, or is the value here this thing you believe and you have to hold on to it, and so you'll move your world around in order to fit this belief? Which is what it's sounding more and more like. Because I can tell you the answer. If you came to me and you said, I have irrefutable evidence that a God exists and it's this God, then I would be like, shit, I was wrong. There is a God. I can easily tell you that because I care about what's true. That's how I can answer that hypothetical.
Well, I mean, I believe that the Bible is true. I believe God created the world and he created the heavens and the earth. I believe in a big bang that happened in the beginning, and that big bang was when God created the heavens and the earth. And
Okay, so then let's talk about it.
I don't think you can prove to me that your perspective is more reliable. You have to have faith that that's more reliable.
Can you prove to me that yours is reliable at all?
Based on your scientific theory? Or I mean,
scientific
based on anything that would make me believe anything.
I believe eternity is in your heart, and I believe that God created everybody.
Dominic, you've said a lot of things. We know what you believe.
I believe
you're saying things.
Candy is in your brain.
I wish.
It doesn't mean anything, dude. Like that's the thing, dude. It doesn't mean anything. It's just you're not saying anything. You're preaching whatever weird talking point you have rather than answering the questions. And the thing is, you said that it takes faith to not believe in God or to believe in it. No, it doesn't. Because all we're doing is we're believing in things that we have evidence for, and we're not believing in things that we don't have evidence for. I don't believe in your God for the exact same reason that I don't believe in the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy or the Tooth Bunny or Santa Claus or any other like magical thing or any of the other 40,000 denominations of Christianity alone or any of the other tens of thousands of religions that have existed over the course of human history. I don't believe in any of it because there isn't any evidence for any of those things. I do believe in evolution and the Big Bang. I hate that word belief in this case, but I'm using it just for you. I do believe in the Big Bang, and I do believe in evolution, and I do believe that stars are burning hydrogen, and I do believe in my computer working, and I believe in all these other things that I have evidence for, but I don't have evidence for any gods. So no, it is not a faith claim. And if you're going to sit here and say that the entire Bible is true and that God is real and all these things, well, then your God's a dick. Because the God of the Bible is clearly a monster, and the Bible is very clearly a pro-slavery, anti-woman book, and there's no reason to worship this God, even if it is real. So if you could prove to me your God is real, I would say, yes, I am now a theist, I believe in God, and fuck that guy. I don't want anything to do with him. And so here you are, giving us like the worst possible God to believe in with no evidence for it, and saying that if you don't believe me, you have a faith position. None of that makes any sense, Dominic.
You're good at defending what you believe. But
thank you.
Because we're just being honest, right. Dominic. We're just being honest. So it's not about like you're approaching this like an argument, and you're trying to come with a script, but you either answer something or you like. I don't understand. Okay, if I told you that
Dominic,
I'm in the middle of talking. If I told you that
it's so frustrating that he interrupts you 50 times more than he interrupts me. It fucking sucks. Dominic, you gotta let a woman talk
when it's dudes. So Dominic, if I tell you that I have right off camera where you can't see, I have a tiny pink unicorn that is magical and grants my wishes, but you just can't see her, but she exists and she's there. What would you think? Do you believe me?
No.
Why not?
Why?
I wouldn't. What
would it take for you to
unicorn?
Yeah, a little tiny one. It's so cute.
Why do you have faith that the unicorn doesn't exist?
No. She's real. She's like walking around and she can talk to me, and she is magical. She grants my wishes when I ask her to.
No, I would never believe that.
What would it take for you to believe me?
To believe in that you just said that.
Yep.
So you're trying to equate that to the God of the Bible?
This is just an easy question to answer because I didn't say that at all.
She didn't say the hot dog doesn't exist. She's just asking a hypothetical. What would it take for you to believe in the magic unicorn?
I would need evidence.
Funny that.
Yeah, that's that is where I'm saying, if you want me to believe something that you're saying, because you said a lot of things that to me sound like a little pink unicorn off screen. You haven't given us any.
Well, I can say scriptures that I've memorized.
Yeah, but again, as you pointed out earlier, if we don't think that God is real, I can say a lot of scriptures
that I have memorized, and I'm an atheist.
I promise you, Dominic, I can quote better scripture than you. The problem is that if we don't think God is real and we don't think the Bible is authoritative, then scripture doesn't mean anything. It would be like me quoting the Bhagavad Gita to you. If you're not a Hindu, it shouldn't matter. So why don't you believe in all these other gods?
All about the little pink unicorn that grants my wishes. So this book says it's true. I can quote it. It's written down. Hang on one second. Okay, it's written down in here that this unicorn is real. So you have to believe me now.
I'll say this.
And I'll quote it.
I'll say this. The Bible does say that the world will know Christians by how they love one another. So you're supposed to be able to see a difference in Christians. There should be evidence that, the fruit of the Spirit is evidence, but that's not something that you can examine in a microscope or anything. But
Dominic,
I don't think you care what's true or not. I think you just want to hold on to this dogma, and you can't even listen to us. You can't answer the questions. You're just sitting there going down your list of stuff. I've heard it a million times. I used to say these things. I used to preach it. It's not interesting to me. The only thing that's interesting to me is reality and evidence. And for the same reasons you don't want to sit, or maybe you do because I can make cool stories, the same reason you don't want to sit and hear me talk about this little pink unicorn that I think exists that grants my wishes is the same reason you can tell me all this stuff. It doesn't mean anything without evidence.
I feel like I've heard the pink unicorn thing from one of y'all, or that example to try to make a point. It's not a real, you're just trying to
Did you hear anything I just said, Dominic?
Yeah, you asked me about a pink unicorn. What would it take for me to believe that?
Do
you understand why I asked that?
There was a lot of work in there in between then and now. Dominic, she was making a hypothetical to show you that in order for you to believe in a magical claim, you would need actual evidence. It wouldn't matter if there was scripture about the unicorn. Doesn't matter if there's old books about the unicorn. Doesn't matter if she can recite things about the unicorn. Doesn't matter if the unicorn makes her a better person. Doesn't matter if the unicorn cured her addiction. Doesn't matter if the unicorn brought her to a better place in her life. Doesn't matter if the unicorn helped her family grow as a stronger unit. Doesn't matter if the unicorn got her through prison. Doesn't matter if the unicorn holds society together. Doesn't matter if the unicorn is like the fundamental core of her personality. Doesn't matter if the unicorn means something special to her. Doesn't matter if the unicorn speaks to her in ways that only she can understand. Doesn't matter if any of that. All that matters is if the unicorn is fucking real. And if it's real, then there should be actual evidence for it that you can test. So sitting here and telling us, well, Christians should behave with love and all this stuff. First of all, that's counter evidence because there's no hate quite like Christian love. And second of all, It doesn't matter if Christians are the best, most loving people in the world. That doesn't mean that God is real. If God's real, there should be evidence for God. We're asking you for evidence. If you don't have any, just have the fucking spine to just say, I don't have any.
There's evidence of God in this creation.
Where?
Just look around. Look at the natural world, order and design.
Are you seriously going to give us a look at the trees right now? I do, dude. I look at the natural world all the time. I'm a biologist. I've spent a long time, too long, if we're being honest, studying the natural world, and I haven't found a single hint of a God in it, nor any evidence for one.
What is your purpose? Like, what is
do you
the
mean?
purpose,
My purpose
of life? What is the purpose of a life without God?
Dominic,
what is the purpose
I do
of
not
life?
believe that there is a purpose, and I hate the idea of a purpose. I cannot imagine a worse scenario than having a purpose. I am disgusted and appalled and revolted by the idea of a purpose. It sounds horrible to say that I am born on purpose with a goal in mind, and that some monster in the sky has decided what my life is and what it's going to be. That sounds terrible. I don't believe that there is a purpose. I don't believe there's a plan. I don't believe there's a goal. I don't believe there's a point. We went over nihilism a little bit ago on one of the other calls. I don't believe in any of that stuff, and I am so unbelievably happy that those things aren't real. Just as I am very glad your God isn't real, because the God of the Bible is a monster.
Do you believe that man has sinned and fallen short? Do you sin? Are you a sinner?
Because sin,
because sin. I don't believe sin exists.
I don't believe sin exists because sin means doing what God doesn't want, and I don't believe God is real. So do I believe that people do bad things sometimes? Absolutely. I think that there's some bad shit that happens in the world, and I wish it wouldn't have happened, and I hope that there's justice for it if it does happen. But I don't believe in a God, and I don't believe in sin. And Dominic doesn't give a shit because he just hung up. The dude does not care about what he believes.
He said in the chat he didn't mean to hang up, but I don't think we were getting anywhere because he's just going to, you can hear him not listening. And just going seriously. Down it's all the things I grew up thinking. Those are the things that I wouldn't have called in a show, but the things that would have been going on in my head. Yeah, but what about this? But what about this? Not because I was convinced that I actually knew something that I could share with other people, but because I had to believe that. So it's like, how could I work around to continue to believe that? And that's so. I want him to understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's dishonest. That is dishonest thinking. That is a dishonest way to approach it. I think he was being very honest that he believes, but he's not actually challenging himself at all. And he wasn't able to present us with anything. It makes me so sad to just watch those wheels of indoctrination just continue going this one way where this machine only believes this one thing and it cannot get outside of that. It just makes me so sad for people.
That's really it's frustrating because like you even pointed it out several times, and I hope that if he goes back and listens to this call, I hope he'll recognize literally every single time he would ask us a question, we gave a thorough and clear answer. And part of that is because you and I are both professional communicators. But like even without that, like if someone asks you directly, why do you believe this thing? And you have to say, well, why do you believe that? You don't have a reason. You don't have a reason to believe it. If that's your response, you have a shitty theology. You have a terrible way of thinking, and you got to get out of that, dude. Dominic strikes me very much as a person who has never once had a serious conversation with anybody who disagrees with him. And he for all of his boasting about saying, well, I've actually traveled quite a bit. I don't believe you. If you have, you didn't do a good job of traveling, because the point of traveling is supposed to be getting out of your comfort zone and exposing yourself to different cultures and different beliefs and different ideas. You're supposed to be around people who don't believe the same things as you. But it sounds like if Dominic did any traveling, it might have been with a Christian mission trip or something.
I was about to say, I grew up traveling too. And that you're right. It's what you do when you're traveling that makes the difference. Mm-hmm. And I don't, it was just sad to hear him go down the list of all those things, because if he was actually just trying to engage honestly, then he would answer the questions just like we were able to do for him. I did answer all those things, and I don't think there's a value of truth happening. I think there's a value of having to continue believing what you've been believing and looking for ways to keep that going. But here's the main issue. Let's pretend you and I didn't have any good answers for his questions. And we were like, well, damn, I don't know. What happens when you talk to the next person who's like, I don't believe. Why should I believe what you believe? And you still can't give them anything. And they do have good answers for you, because that doesn't do shit. Like Forrest and I fucking up over an answer doesn't mean that your God exists. So you've got to actually provide evidence.
Hey, if you liked this video, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't
That's
like
what
it,
you would say.
subscribe.
Okay.
You didn't even give me a chance.
There was such a long pause.
What are you on speed or
All right,
something? I barely had a
Let's
chance.
try again. Hey, I hope you liked. Hey, I hope you. Fuck. Hey there. I hope you liked that clip. Hey, I hope you liked that clipper just now, the one that you just watched with your eyes. If you did like it, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't like it, tell Jimmy to go fuck himself.
Hey, I hope you liked that clip right now. If you did like it, why don't you hit that like button?
And if you didn't like it, go ahead and subscribe anyway.